time. The government has spent $20 to $25 billion a year trying to drive that price up, bend that curve up. Every dollar spent on that war on drugs simply makes the failure of the war on drugs more and more expensive. The warriors against drugs would tell you that if the price of cocaine drops like that, the use of cocaine will increase. But cocaine has dropped right along with the price. Every theory of how the war on drugs would work has been proven wrong, and the war on drugs now functions as a massive transfer of wealth to drug cartels and a relentless destroyer of lives here and in drug trafficking countries. The Rand Corporation has done a study showing that if marijuana were legalized just in California, Mexican drug cartels would lose about a fifth of their annual income from the United States, which is now $6.5 billion a year. It makes you wonder how much money the drug cartels must be funneling into the California campaigns against legalizing their product. The greatest tragedy in the war on drugs are the innocent casualties, the men and women, boys and girls, who end up in our legal system and our prison system because of an innocent exploration with marijuana and other drugs. That is the part of the war on drugs that is manufacturing criminals, taking people who would otherwise never get arrested and ruining their lives, throwing them in jail, making them unemployable when they get out, and moving many of them closer to a life of crime now that they are ex-cons instead of mere pot smokers. That could have happened to President Obama, but it didn't. Not because he was lucky, but because his experience with drugs is the normal American experience with drugs. Most people never come close to getting arrested for recreational drug use. Recreational experimental drug use in this country is normally a phase of a few years or maybe 10 years that becomes a faded memory or a very occasional pleasure after people turn 30 or get married or get pregnant. The American experience is that people simply age out of drug use, and most of them then spend the rest of their lives in a much more dangerous relationship with perfectly legally obtained alcohol. But just by chance, by bad luck, some recreational drug users get their lives ruined by the war on drugs. Bad luck is not equally distributed in our society, so the bad luck casualties of the war on drugs are disproportionately poor and disproportionately African American. We call it the war on drugs, not the war on young African American men. But if you look at the victims of our war effort, our war on drugs, the American government's war on drugs, the war that we pay for, it's hard to continue to call it a war on drugs. Drugs have not suffered in this war. The war has not reduced the supply of drugs or increased the prices of drugs. The war has not harmed drugs in any way. It is a war in which the only damage done is collateral damage. Drug addicts who need treatment are thrown in jail instead. Young people going through the now completely normal rite of passage with drug experimentation get their lives ruined for no good reason. We have sacrificed the lives of millions to a war that cannot be won. We've gone from a president who tried to make us believe he didn't inhale to a president who simply refused to answer whether he used cocaine, to a president who honestly described his cocaine experimentation and marijuana phase. And through it all, the war on drugs rages on. How do we let it happen? How do our presidents and politicians who know better let it happen? Why are we in the 41st year of the merciless sacrifice of the innocents? Why do we sacrifice millions of lives to a war that cannot be won? And perhaps, most importantly, what have we sacrificed in ourselves that allows us to turn away from this crime against humanity day after day? Ireland's most renowned poet, William Butler Yeats, wrote the answer in this line 96 years ago. Too long a sacrifice can make a stone of the heart.